Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? And I was so invigorated by that, especially when he started talking about Jesus being betrayed and stuff like that. And I was just like, man, he was like a good guy. I'm not as good as he is. So if people
Nowhere
did it
near it.
to him, you know what I'm saying? Like, well, I want to be done to me, and it's gonna be the people close to you, you know. And he knew
Yeah.
it was coming. We don't even see it was coming. He knew it was coming. So imagine you know your people's about to do you wrong,
Yeah.
and then they do it. I don't know which one is worse, being blindsided or know they about to do it, then they do it.
Yeah, both of them kind of bad, bro. You ain't lying. Jesus.
But I appreciate you. Even I know we get a chance to chop it up multiple times. Had a great time when I came to Nashville.
Definitely.
Looking forward to that footage coming out. Like
Definitely.
for real, for real.
Oh, it's coming.
Uh, and you're no stranger to the Understanding a Man podcast. And I want to thank those that have joined us this evening. Please continue to like and share. You can follow us. You can go over there to Elam B. King on YouTube or type in Understanding a Man. You'll always see our discussions on there. Yeah, I gotta forgive me. I was about to cancel tonight, James, because my allergies are messing with me. So if I cough a little, it's just a little
No worries.
irritation.
No worries, bro. No worries.
Oh man. And so you're no stranger to our show, and I want to have people know who you are, and who you are actually has a lot to do with a part of this evening's conversation.
Gotcha.
So if you could take a moment and just give the elevator version of who you are, where you from, what you do in these streets of purpose, and then we can kind of go from there. So James Bush, y'all, burning in
What's
the bush.
What's going on, everybody? My name is James Bush. I am a licensed professional counselor in the state of Tennessee, Kentucky, Arizona, soon to be Florida, soon to be Nevada as well, and probably going back to New Jersey. I love what I do. I am the manversationist, and that is the guy who holds court panels for conversations that are dealing with men, and
Yeah.
women can get in on these conversations as well too. But as women, they do have their support. Men, we need ours as well. So you can find me on YouTube. You can find me on, look, just James Bush, Nashville. Google me, you'll see me. That's
Mhm.
it. Point blank simple. But I love what I do. I'm very passionate about what I do, and I'm passionate about getting the correct information out there.
Ooh, now see, you
Yeah.
wanted to end on that note, and you
Shots
just want
fired.
to, you just want, yeah.
Shots fired. Clean up on all five.
So you want to dive on in tonight? Okay, you want to pick violence. So let's take a moment, sir. You said that you are a licensed
Hmm.
therapist,
Yes, sir.
correct? Well, you went to school for this.
Yes, sir.
Now, I didn't go to school for it.
Hmm.
You went to school for this thing from a counseling perspective,
Yes.
right? And so I consider myself as a coach,
Right.
a relationship coach, right? And you are you would say an official, you said a relationship therapist. Would it be? I want to make sure I'm saying that correctly.
I just look at myself as like I'm the manversationist. I work with guys,
Right.
primarily women. They come in, they want to do couples counseling. They
Mhm.
come to see me because they've tried. I'm not no shade or anything to my female coaches or my
Right,
female
right.
counselors as well before, but they're like, I don't want my husband to feel like he's getting ganged up on. So we were looking to
Mhm.
see it from a male standpoint or a male point of view. And
Yep.
so that's where the low hanging fruit was. And that's what I stepped into, and I found out that there's so many different not opinions, but there's a viewpoint, there's context that sometimes is missing because we're not seeing the male point of view, and we're not looking at the historical data or historical context that has played into some of these ideas. So that's what I'm partly here to do, is express those ideas and concepts.
So, and you said something. I just want to lead into that really quickly about just even in dealing inside of the counseling space. And you said something about low hanging fruit. And let me just ask you this. I know that in the past, and let's just place this out here, because when you talk about counseling and when you talk about therapy, when you talk about coaching, when you whatever the myriad of challenges that exist, excuse me, whatever the myriad of different things that people label it as, right? At the end of the day, this is the space from a subculture perspective that our generations, that particularly our culture as the Black community, that this was an area that you don't do counseling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not something that you do, because if you do that, that must mean that there's something wrong with you. And
Right.
so, are people moving more towards embracing counseling now versus how we were taught back in the day, that this is something that was like bad or wrong, or there's something, hang your head to? Are people moving? Are you finding people moving more towards that? Just couples, period. We just talk about men and women, period, first.
I would say yes and no. I
Okay.
think the pandemic did a lot for people. When the pandemic happened, you had groups like Cigna, EAP, that's employment assistance programs. They were giving 10 sessions where previously they were giving 3. And they were
Oh wow.
giving their clientele 10 sessions to go see a therapist and talk about whatever was ailing them. And so a lot of
Mm,
people, they took advantage of that. A lot of us therapists took advantage of that. And
right.
so you saw the rise in individuals seeking out treatment. You saw the rise in telehealth services and virtual therapeutic services that were
Hmm.
offered to clientele that were run over. Many of my colleagues, we made some bank during the pandemic because I mean, and some of us got burnt out as well too. But
Right.
my point being is that there was a lot happening because people were not looking for the same old
Hmm.
as it had happened in the past.
Okay.
A lot of us have been in maybe religious circles or circumstances and where counseling was frowned upon,
Okay.
psychological services were frowned upon.
Right.
However, when what was offered in those moments was not giving you the desired outcomes or the results, then I saw the shift within our generation where they said, hey, look, I need to talk to someone else that
Right.
has maybe a couple letters behind his name in that
Right.
area.
Right.
Because my pastor is giving me the Bible, which I am very
Right.
grateful for, but I need someone to help me deal with that depression or that anxiety or that post-traumatic stress disorder or some other ailments that are beginning to take form in my life that I cannot just maybe pray away. And I think that's the shift that has taken place.
And I like that you went there with it, because yeah, there is more of a textbook way that normally. This is what I heard. Let me just tell you what I heard. Okay, the textbook way of, yeah, seeing a pastor, right? So they're going to throw the Bible at you, right? And unfortunately, for some pastors, some clergy that walk inside of this space, it's not always a pastor. Sometimes it might be the deacon or somebody else in the church that might do it or whatever. That person can tend to walk in more of a spiritual aspect without leaving some adaptable tools that you can immediately implement. We could just say have faith. That could take you a lifetime almost. I'm, 46 years old and still working on my faith. So I know it's not
Yes, sir.
something that can happen overnight. However, you thinking before you speak, and honestly, or even a technique that I say to people, hey, next time that you have a conversation with your significant other, even when you're angry, act like you're speaking to their heart. Act like their heart is in your hand and you're speaking to it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so how would just to take you from, maybe that takes you from 10 to 6,
Right.
and then you can sprinkle in a little, of your spirituality. And that could take you from 6 to maybe 4 or 3 or something like that. Like, it's more than just one thing of just prayer and trusting God or whatever. On this earth, there are tools that we need to operate in and walk in order to navigate through whatever challenge that's in front of us. Would you
Mm-hmm.
agree?
I definitely would agree with that.
And so I think that that's where the coaching aspect kind of evolved, if you will, and helped me understand, because the counseling had a structured way of doing things,
Mm-hmm.
whereas coaching kind of comes outside of that box, right? There's no
Mm-hmm.
box,
There
and
is
it
no
gives you,
box.
and there's some tools that can be more given
Yes.
versus having to stay inside of a structure. Your
Yes.
thoughts?
I mean, I don't disagree with that. I think that it was one of those things where the field had to evolve to some extent because there was more of a need, and because especially in our community, we went through God knows 400 to 500 some odd years of captivity, um, and enslavement and whatever else you want to call with that. Don't quote me on the year or the numerical
Right,
value of that.
right,
However, it happened, so that left a traumatic experience with many of us.
right.
We should have probably been on someone's couch,
Yeah, I
sitting,
agree.
talking about these things, discussing them, processing through these horrors that have taken place to us, that have transpired over decades, years, centuries. And so it had to get to some place where we began to become more informed as a community, and we started having the necessary conversations and processing the healing that goes along with that.
And I think that if you would agree or disagree that mental illness, because that's more of a prevalent conversation, right? That also is an attribution to, I mean, even COVID. COVID was an entire mental challenge for many of us, right?
Yes.
And so, or for many people as well. I found myself writing a lot more. It's where my third book came from because I was just like, yo, I can't go out, so let me just. But anyway, it's kind of shifting back. So we got people you're seeing that more doing of the counseling. Have you noticed an increase of men? And let me just be honest with you, men of color. Have you noticed an increase in walking towards coaching, counseling spaces for men and then just men of color? Period.
Almost definitely. I mean, the majority of my clientele are men of color or so. Again, I'm a black guy, I'm a therapist. Pleased to meet you. And so, I mean, here it is. It's just
Right.
the bottom line is they come, they seek me out, they find me on Psychology Today, they find me by word of mouth, they find me on social media, and then the rest is the rest. And we go in and we have some of the most unbelievable conversations or have discussions, and we take that journey
Right.
together. And
Right.
I think that it's a great thing because what I do is I try to mimic it from a lot of the background many of us came out of. A lot of us, we were in 80s and the 90s, we played pee wee football. And so
Mhm.
we were held accountable for some of our our
But I'm
missteps.
glad that you brought that's a great example. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to dive in here because I don't know if this
Okay.
is where you want to go, but I want to
Okay.
say this particularly with men because we've played a sport, right?
Yes.
And so we're
Yes.
used to a coach. You were used to somebody taking, whatever our talent is, whether it's tennis, whether it's basketball, whether it's football, whether it's soccer, whether it's whatever, and they take that, tweak that, they yell, they holler, they scream, you do drills,
Yes.
right? And what do? You receive it, right? And then you and the team go try to win the game,
That's right.
right? Using the tools, using the best person that you can be, coupled with your teammate doing the exact same thing. So we're actually used to working with the team. We're used to having a coach, but just inside of this space, coach, counsel, whatever, we could just blanket it by just saying, you visiting with somebody else to help you navigate through the space that you're choosing to walk in. Just like you choose that sport, you choose a relationship.
Yeah.
This sport carries the necessity of a coach to adapt you to the level that you need to be in order to win, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Inside of a relationship, you also need someone to help you to navigate through that, to help you get to where you need to be at. Would you agree?
You definitely do. I
And
definitely
so,
would see
and
that.
men just not seeing that aspect of it. That's just one analogy, and I'm just so glad that you brought that forward. I just had to jump that in there.
Well, I mean, I think it comes along with the village cliche and the ability to have individuals to gather around someone and support and help that individual get to that next level, that next space. And so,
Right,
again, as you said, whether it's through admonishment, whether it's through drills, whether it's through tough love or so, you are propelling your person to be able to succeed at whatever level that is. And I
right.
believe a lot of us men are used to it because we've been indoctrinated with that as 5 years old, 6 years old, playing pee
Mhm.
wee football, playing baseball, playing basketball. I mean, you've got now kids that are in middle school, they have trainers who are trying to
Right,
push them to get to that whatever next level it is. And so my point being is, and I cannot speak on the feminine aspect of this, but I'm speaking specifically on males, is that
right.
we are accustomed to this. And so I guess sometimes it takes a bull to catch a bull or whatnot.
Okay,
And
okay.
that's where I go with it. And we set milestones and markers. We try to see if it works. If it doesn't work, we go back to the drawing board and we make
Hmm.
the needed adjustments.
Right. Before we go forward, I just want to, because actually, in a second or two, I want to really wrap up because, it's just another topic that we need to get to in a minute. But let me ask you this: Why is being in counsel, why is it important? And I know you just kind of touched on some things, but if you just had to give just an elevator version, and you had to speak to the men that are out there that have been indoctrinated, as you said earlier, with the space of how this is not something that we should, that you should need to have to do. And it doesn't matter what culture, because I have, and I'm sure you as well, have multiple cultures that I work with, and all of the men seem to have the same indoctrination. You have very few that are just like, hey, I've been in counseling since I was, a teenager, or because since I was in my 20s. Anytime that I hear that, there's normally some type of traumatic experience that has attached to it, which is when they begin to do it. Then they're
Mhm,
like, oh, this is dope. You
mhm,
know, maybe they were dealing with something as a child, and so they put the person in counseling, and now the person's like, yo, so now that I've dealt with that issue, I still like, those are the people that I find still in it. But other than that, I don't find it. So if you could just speak to, if you had to speak to your younger self
mhm.
of what's the importance, and then even speak to yourself today, either or. So actually, I want you to talk to your younger self, maybe teenager, 20, and then I want you to talk to, how old are you?
41.
Okay, so now I want you to talk to the 40-year-old. I wanted to make sure you was in here with the 40s. Okay, so I want you to talk to the 40-year-old you, elevator version. Why is it important for you to be in counseling right now?
Why not be in counseling? Why not have someone outside of yourself help you on this thing called life, on this journey? See, the thing is, it's like, let's take it back to football. Is that we
Okay.
have coaches, we have offensive coaches, we have wide receiver coaches, wideout coaches, we have individuals who are watching us perform,
Mm,
and they are critiquing us, and they are shaving off the edges so that we become more proficient in what we're doing. You
okay.
need that in life so that
Okay.
you can go to whatever next level it is, whether it's mentally, whether it's emotionally. So the thing is that instead of you always tripping out on your girlfriend, hey, how about you have somewhere you can go and have these discussions with individuals who are qualified, who have done the work, who are looking at a myriad of mental health disorders or maladies, and
Right.
saying, okay, this is your impairment, but we can do this.
Mm,
Nobody has it all within themselves. And I think that's one of the biggest lies that has been told to us, is that we have it all. We've got it all together. No, the hell you don't. And I'm here
come
to
on,
tell you,
sir.
as somebody in their teens to somebody in their 40s, and God knows, God give me the gift if I see even later on, you don't have it all together. There's so much on this journey called life that we're continuing to learn. And you
Mm,
need those individuals who are positioned, who are qualified, who are skilled to speak to you, and that you are willing to listen to, so that you become more sharper, more proficient, and man, enjoy even more of this thing called life.
mm.
But if you don't have that individual, it becomes even more
Woo.
of a dysfunctional situation, because now you continue to make the same errors over and over again. And instead, so it's like watching, it's like being, I'm real quick, 2 seconds.
Mm.
It's like being at film study and seeing and watching the whole game where
Okay.
you're lined up in the wrong spot.
Okay, sir.
So you've got not only you looking at this, the coaches
Okay.
is looking at this, the whole
Okay.
team is looking at this, and they're seeing you make this incomplete, wrong, asinine error over and over and over again. And you say to yourself, man, if only I had listened. If only I had been willing to be
I
vulnerable and allowed someone to speak and
I gotta
impart into
type
my
that.
life, so that I can get to that next place where I don't look like an idiot, because that's not who I am as a player, but I am making these bonehead mistakes.
Dude, I had to type that, and I'm gonna share this with you. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I might or I might not give you credit for this statement that you just made. I might or I might not. When you said, you're lined up in the wrong spot, and that for some reason that clicked even more to utilize that, because it's kind of like there's a lot of people who are on the field. That's what I just thought about. A lot of people who are on the field, so they figure that they're playing and they're playing their hardest, but you're in the wrong position. And because you're in the wrong position, you're still utilizing energy. Come on, sir. You're still utilizing energy, so you feel like that you're putting in work. And so for you, when you come to me, or when you come to you, or anybody from a coaching counseling perspective, They by the time they get to us, they're already tired, and they feel like that they've worked so hard inside of the position of what they were doing, and it makes so much sense to say you were lined up in the wrong spot. That's why it was difficult for you. Yes, you were on the field. Yes, you have on the clothing and the jersey and the superficial pieces or whatever case it be, and you're putting all that together thinking that you're here to play, but you're in the wrong position. And that's actually for men and women. But I like that analogy, and you have a 50% chance of me actually giving you credit towards that in the future. So the only thing I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna give you credit today in front of everybody. Down the road, I might say it so prophetically that I might not include. I might not include. I might not say I heard it from Jason. I'm just messing with you, but I'm only halfway kidding. So I think that was a great analogy, man. I'm sorry if I cut you off. I had to highlight that. That's a great analogy.
I mean, well, definitely, bro. I mean, again, it's that you look the part, but the fact is that you don't know how to play this game called life. You don't know how to do it. Guess what? For many of us that are African American males in this country, a lot of us didn't have male direction.
Mm,
We want to go back to the 70s, the 80s, the crack epidemic, 90s, three strikes, the crime bill. We want to go back to the housing crisis. We want to go even further down the line and even to the pandemic.
mm,
A lot of us minorities did not have that male direction.
right.
And so we are trying to figure it out as best as possible.
Come on,
That's why it's
baptism
so
by
important.
fire.
That's why it's so important for us to go sit down with somebody and work through those challenges, that
Right,
trauma, not big T, because you don't have to have big shot to get a big T. You don't have to be stabbed. It could be little T, those
right.
microaggressions, those
Mm,
short stabbing situations, symbolically, I want to say, that
mm,
eat at us. We need that help so that we can be better, not for ourselves only, but for
mm.
our progeny and our community.
Okay. I really love that, man. And so as we're looking to move forward, you know, understanding that this is something that people are slowly walking more into. And then looking at even us as men, we're more walking in towards this space as well. And then we have, just the understanding of why it's important as well. So here I am. I'm going to allow myself to become vulnerable, and I'm going to go research to, first, let me just say, if I'm researching it utilizing my insurance, or just go to Thumbtack, or go to all the different sites, contractors.com, whatever, to find your particular man. Need to bleep those out, or they need to give me some money or whatever. But anyway, just thought about that. Well, whatever the venues are that you're going to utilize, what in choosing a coach, counselor, or whatever, what should I avoid, um, and or look for? And we'll shift towards the social media perspective in a second. But if I'm just looking through my insurance and stuff like that, how do I find the James, or how do I find an Elam? How do I? Because I don't take insurance, but you do,
Mhm.
right? So what do we do? How do you look for somebody to begin to walk down the street of counseling or coaching?
Well, the short version I want to say is that hopefully you don't marry the first person that you date or so. You want to make sure that the individual that you are seeking these therapeutic or these psychological services for, or these coaching services for, is someone that you can relate to, that you can receive from. Because there are a lot of people that have they are very good orators.
Right,
They speak so well.
right,
They have all the lingo and they can make you shout, they can pull at your emotions, but at the end of the day, what does that mean for you when you are needing those inward parts to be illuminated, to
right,
be discussed, to be fleshed out?
right,
Someone that's going to be consistent, someone that's going to keep you accountable, someone that just says, hey, that right there is a problem. And they're not just there to take your money, they're there to go and hold you accountable for your actions so that you can become better in the whole process. Just
right.
like the coach. These are the things that you look for. However, if you want a feel good message, if you just want to go and just say, man, there are all kinds of people out there. It
Mm,
depends on what type of work that you are trying to do.
okay. Um, and so as we branch over into the what should you avoid? Okay. And we have, let me be humble enough to say that I'm blessed to be able to be around individuals like yourself. I say my man King J Barnett, that's the homie right there. He is a doctor in clinical therapy. Has been very instrumental. Somebody that I go to, on different things. I come to you for different things. The people in my circle are either licensed therapists, clinical therapists, doctors, or just individuals that are really, you could tell that there's a passion and a love that they have for this versus just trying to take advantage and go get a dollar, right?
Mm-hmm,
And of
mm-hmm.
course, as for anything, as a demand increase, you have individuals who can kind of rob the platform
Right.
of the sincerity and the genuineness of people out here like yourself who really care about people and want to help evolve our community, and improve these families. And so, what are some of the things that we should avoid when we're in this space? Yeah, let's start there. And I particularly want to go towards online. Can I just do it? Can I just go
Yes, sir.
here?
Just go ahead and do it. Just go do it.
We have some individuals who, again, some of them have been in this space longer than myself, right?
Mm-hmm,
But I can see sometimes when information is delivered that is more of a capitalizing versus an
mm-hmm.
education.
Right.
And then you have a fundamentalist attitude that exists with some. And I always say, if you're a fundamentalist in anything, you are a dangerous person, because if you can only look at just one side and not look at any other side, if you are only just for the women, if you're only just for the men, you know what I'm saying? And so, and particularly, let's just keep it honest. In this space, we have those that are like that could be a little bit more vulnerable in this space that are women, right? And so you
Mhm.
have men that are speaking sometimes, and I think sometimes that some of these men they take advantage, and they more speak towards you. Just say, "Oh, if he loves you, then stay with him. But if you don't, just leave him." Oh, you get 100,000 likes, and I'm just like, he didn't say anything. Can we look deeper into what that man just said? And it bothers me because I deliver information that's going to heal people,
Mhm.
deliver information that's going to help somebody, not just add the fuel to what they were only doing wrong in that position, as you were speaking of earlier. I'm sorry, I just had to preface it by saying
Mhm.
this is just some of the pain that I see myself, but I'm committed to continuing to share information that is genuine and can be an adaptable tool for somebody. But as a clinical therapist, I mean, what can you share that people should avoid based upon what you're seeing out there, social media, or just what you just see in the industry period?
Well, I titled this "Be Careful of the Plate That You're Eating Off of."
Mm,
And I go to the space where back with my training. In my master's program, we had to look at these things called peer reviewed journal articles. And
okay.
that's where you went and you looked at other people's research on a specific or particular topic.
Hmm.
And you'll have maybe 5, 10, 20, 100 people that are commenting, reproducing this research, and giving their clinical expertise off of what was being done. Now,
Okay.
with that, you have scrutiny, you have a challenge. You are looking at, okay, maybe your research is only meant for this demographic, this population. Maybe your research is only meant for these individuals who have this mental health disorder or that mental health disorder, or et cetera, et cetera. My point
Hmm.
being is that it is a scrutinized, a very detailed look at the data and at the research that is being offered to the masses. So here's
Okay.
the thing. Now we go to a little bit step further. If I am looking at an individual that
Hmm.
in his soliloquy or in his monologue or in his car talk or so, they cannot give me a well-rounded discussion or
Okay.
take on a particular matter that has not been scrutinized, challenged by their other peers in their group. I'm
Right.
questionable about them. If they
Yes, sir.
cannot offer disclaimers, if they cannot go and show me that they are knowledgeable and proficient in what they are saying, but it's all anecdotal,
Right. Come
oh
on.
hell
Come
no.
on.
I can't
Yeah.
do that. I'm not going to
Come
do
on,
that.
anecdotal.
And guess what? Here's the thing though, is some people say, well, I was moved by the spirit. Well, I'm gonna say this right now. The same spirit that put us all here
Come on,
is the
sir.
same spirit that can reproduce his effects over and over
Come
and
on, sir.
over and over and over and over. But
Hmm.
man, if it's only a flash in the pan, if it's only for an individual that pretty much is on a hot summer day or
Come
so,
on.
with the degrees is about maybe 50 or 75 or whatever, have not, and
On a hot
these are the
summer day.
conditions that are giving these results, then that's something that is not consistent and cannot be reproduced. So guess what? Now let's take it a little bit step further. You have individuals who are listening to these folks and are eating this up.
Come on. This is the thing.
They're eating this up and they're taking this as gospel. And then it's like, but it didn't work. I was like, no, it wasn't work because that which was stated was not necessarily meant and tailored for you.
Come
That was
on.
just something that made you feel good
Come
because you were
on.
at a point in your life
Come
where
on.
that was a deficiency. So you
Come on.
ate it up, you were emotional, you tried it, it didn't work, and now
Mhm.
you feel a little bit more despondent and hopeless on the outside of it.
And let me say this really quickly. I want to make sure that we understand one thing. It's as if I think in this moment, imagine yourself, gentlemen that are listening, or imagine yourself, ladies that are listening. But I want to target this towards the ladies because I think that there's a little bit more discernment inside of some of our men here. But even some of them are in vulnerable spaces as well because some are just trying to evolve and find find your path of which portion of counseling that you want to walk down. I think that it's amazing how we have individuals that are willing to share information. I think that some people actually have um, some good intentions in this area. Just like with anything else, you could have good.
Yeah.
You can go into a store and they meant to cook the meat all the way through, but it could be raw in the middle, and they just they apologize. They're looking to do better. You have those individuals, right?
Right, right.
That are evolving in this space, and God bless those people. They'll continue to evolve and become better. You also have individuals who on the other side of the spectrum who who like you said, anecdotal, right? And the level of research is not really being done, right, on both sides of the equation, right? And then so you have those that, but they really feel like that they're making the right decision and where they're going.
Mm-hmm,
Okay, I'll let time talk to you.
mm-hmm.
But I just want to make sure people are aware of the other side. Some of the, and I'm going to say some of these simps out here, some of these individuals who, just are dropping information is kind of like, I see you and I see what you're saying and I see what you're doing. And I just hope that I'm blessed enough to rise to the point with individuals like yourself and a couple other people where it's kind of like those individuals are just silenced because you're messing some people up out here. You're delivering messages that are really personal in nature because you really only have your own plight in this space.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really to help people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just want to, I don't know how I sound when I just said that, whether it was judgmental or not. If it was, I don't think I care because I mean that. And the Bible even talks about beware of false prophets.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell people to fact check me. I mean, when I say something, yeah, go Google what I say because I make sure I fact check it beforehand. And if I miss something, I'm more than willing to apologize and humble myself because it's not about me; it's about you getting the right information,
Right.
right? So, I just as we're walking towards this space, and I just allow you to just kind of just wrap it up or whatever, because I think that that's just important that we address the simps and let them know we see you, we see,
I
and
mean,
but give some people some caution signs on that.
I mean, I'm just gonna be honest with you. The funniest thing is that, and I noticed it a little bit prior, and this is none of my colleagues, man. I love you guys dearly, or so. But we have the relationship counseling coaching field has boomed prior to the pandemic and throughout the pandemic. There are all kinds of relationship therapists or the relationship influencer. When I still look at the marriage and divorce rates, God
Come on,
knows,
sir.
just about more than 50% of them first marriages end in divorce, 60 to 70% of the second ones end in divorce, and 70 and higher of the third marriages end in divorce. So all of these different gurus at this and our culture and our community, and that's to
Come
the
on.
point where some people say, I don't even want to get married anymore. I'm just squaring it off altogether. And I'm saying to myself, what are we doing? Where are the helpers? You know, the message has to hit the helpers first before it goes to the masses. So that's my whole beef with all of this. It's like,
Right.
ladies and gentlemen, we got to be more accountable. We got to be
E-
more accountable with our words this day and age and what we are telling people. We got to be more studied. We got to be more trained. We got to pinpoint our message to those individuals and in those pockets who it is designed for.
Mhm.
Maybe it ain't designed for everybody, but be
Oh, it's not.
accountable for
Oh,
it.
no, no. Let's be clear. Marriage is not designed for everybody. Just like being wealthy is not designed for everybody. So,
It's
oh
not.
no, it is not designed for everybody. You just
Exactly.
because you're a good person, it does not mean that you belong being married. I want to share that.
Yeah.
Maybe you've never heard that before.
Yeah.
For the person that's listening to me right now, I really appreciate you tuning in today to the Understanding a Man podcast and with my man James Bush. He is a licensed clinical therapist, all right? And he's dropping some nuggets on you, but I want to be very clear. Marriage is not for everybody. And
Sure.
just because you are attractive, just because you have a good job, just because you are a nice person, just because that you are a man or woman of God, it does not mean that the responsibility that it takes to maintain forever, that you are structured, that you're able to maintain that.
That's
And
right.
people have to be honest with themselves about that. And so once you're honest with yourself that you're actually able to do that, then you can look at receiving coaching in that space. And as you do that, in my opinion, right? Particularly those who are believers or those who have a level of spirituality, you can trust in the faith of your following of what your fellowship of what you're doing, that deity will bring to light the right person that's for you. If there is a person that's for you, but there might not be a person for you, but you have to do some due diligence in order to find the right you first, and then attract the right person and be able to maintain that person as well. And it's work that comes along with it. And unfortunately, along the way, there is bad advice, there's bad direction that some of us can receive from some of the snakes that are out here. So I want people to be mindful of it. It doesn't mean turn away from it, because I don't care what industry that you're in, there are people who do wrong. Right? It's almost like when somebody does something wrong with church, they're like, "Oh, that's why I don't fool with church." How many restaurants have you been to where you found a hair, or you found a roach in the corner, or somebody, you heard that somebody spit in the food in another state in that same establishment, or come on, right? But you still go to restaurants and eat, right? There are different games that end unfortunately because certain things that go on. There are things that happen with airplanes in the sky, but we still get in planes. Car accidents every 16 seconds, but you still get in your car.
Right.
So just because this industry or anything else might happen to have a spike, particularly when it's emotional intelligence and matters of the heart, we're willing to just write it off and just like, you know what, never mind, I don't want to do that because they're all bad like that. Didn't you just didn't find the right. It's okay to say, James, I'm not cool with our direction.
That's it.
Elam, I'm not cool with our direction. Go find somebody else. There's somebody out there better than me. There's somebody out there that's better than Jay. Watch this. There's somebody out there that's for you in this space. So if it's not us, there's somebody, but continue to do the due diligence of it. So don't let that deter you, but just know that I wanted to say it, James. Like some of these jokers on the social media, they're getting on my nerves, man. But I'm gonna go on and wrap up. Um, what are your closing thoughts, man? Because we can go left on this one, and we got to wrap up or whatever. What are your closing thoughts just in dealing inside of this coaching and counseling space as we expand and just become a little bit more educated in this area.
I think, man, the overarching theme in everything we were talking about this evening, or whenever someone is listening to this wonderful podcast, is that do the work for yourself, man. You know, take the journey of you. Find more ways to study who you are. You know, when you look in the mirror, the human face has 14 bones. 14 bones. They're uniquely, shaped and formed or so to give you a unique structure that your skin, man, just folds over.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the thing is it's looking in the mirror and recognizing who you are, your face, your structure. Every time you look in that mirror, you're like, that's me. But if
Mm-hmm.
you don't know who you are,
Come on, sir. Oh, we got a whole nother hour. We can go another
if you don't know
hour.
who you are,
Oh, sorry. Go
anybody
ahead.
can lead you any kind of place. So
Mm,
that's why it's so important for us to take that journey to learn
mm,
more about who you are, your identity, your values, and
mm.
those who can support you through the process. That's what we're talking about. That's
That's what we're
why it's so
talking about.
important to go to therapy. That's why
Yes,
it's
sir.
important to do your own self work. That's why it's important to surround yourself with people who are in alignment. They
Come
didn't
on,
just
sir.
get in line, they are in alignment with you. So important.
So
Who
important.
wants to just live this life for 40 and 50 and 60 years and just be piss poor average? Sorry, can't do that.
I don't want that. I mean, I know where I went wrong. I know where there's some decision. And here's the thing. God, never mind. Okay, okay. You know what? So, listen. You said something earlier, and I want to bring you back because that's actually this is going to be the end of the season, and we're just going to start up a new one going into next season for season 5. And I
Wow,
want you
season
said
five.
something that's just so interesting. You said people say I don't want to get married anymore. And going into next season, it's going to be something that I'm going to talk about a lot more. Um, and because June is around the corner, which I believe is the number one month for marriage, it goes June, then October, then August or September, I believe it is. And so, right around the corner, we have people who are about to get married. We have people who are, flying here and flying there, and they haven't even done pre-marriage counseling, right? They haven't done any type of pre-marriage coaching along the way. And so, I want to bring you back and probably open up the season because not only I want to close this season out, but I want to open up the next season. Understanding what you just said is people saying, I don't want to get married anymore. And just kind of taking a walk down that space. And, unshameless plug, I actually have a tabletopist game coming out called Are We Ready Yet Game.com. And so this is just a fun way for couples to come together and have some conversation. There's some cards that sit on a table top inside of a little holder or whatever, and you pull a card, and it's 100 cards that are in there, and there's going to be different questions on each one. And so this is just a way of us beginning to unwrap and open the conversation of a very important topic called forever.
Mhm.
I mean, what you sign up for when you get married, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And make sure that we're asking the right questions and walking inside of the right space to ensure that we're prepared for this next space in this next area that we're going to walk into. So, are we ready at game.com? You can also go to elambking.com for that information as well. Before we get out of here, first of all, I want to thank you, James Bush, um, manversationist. We always have amazing conversation. Whatever that you need, brother, what I'm saying? I'm always here, whatever. Hey,
Definitely.
listen, I ain't
Appreciate
nothing
it.
but a plane ride away. My nephew's now at Vanderbilt, so
Cool.
I'll be so quick to come through Nashville
Appreciate it.
now.
Appreciate it.
Let them know how they can follow you, and if people need to get in contact with you for some counseling services and anything that you have coming out, if you can let us know who you are and what they need to pay attention to.
Well, once again, man, Elam, the king has come. Appreciate you, man. Bring me back on your wonderful show. They can reach me at James at justjamesbush.com. You can also look, we have a number of different, my organization, Let's Have Manversations. We have a number of different programs that are coming out. We've in Pensacola, Florida, the 8th and 9th of September. We have We for the Fathers. Father's Day weekend event. That is June the 16th through the 18th. I mean, we have Let's Have Manversation, Huntsville, Alabama, That's going to be around the first week in December. I mean, we're doing a lot of things, getting out in the communities, getting from beyond this
Yes,
microphone
sir. Yes,
with,
sir.
with me and my brother Elam as well too. Getting from beyond this microphone and getting out in the communities and actually doing the work. It's not
Right.
about being just a talking head. It's about
Right.
being impactful, being
Right.
action oriented, and seeing what else do we need to do to get to that next level.
Right. Right. I love it, man. And you guys make sure I'll make sure I have his information up here as we're going to go ahead and wrap up. So thank you again so much, James. Appreciate you for joining. I'm already looking forward to the beginning of next season because we're
Yes,
gonna
sir.
talk about this marriage thing
Yes,
because
sir. Yes,
we'll
sir.
get that thing together. Like you said, the percentage is crazy, and we just got all these resources, and we're just not utilizing them. So, thank
Yeah.
you so much for joining. Again, this is the Understanding Man podcast, and so I want to thank you
I
guys so
don't do
much
the
for joining.
most,
Please
but I
continue to
do a
like and
lot.
share. Follow us
I'ma
at
make a
on
toast,
any
cause we still alive.
podcast platforms at
No
Elam B
big,
King, and of
I
course
feel
on
like
YouTube at
Pac.
Elam B King as well,
Shoot the
and on
shot.
Instagram as well.
I'm
You
coming
can always
in.
go over to elambking.com for any information and products, books, and are we ready at game? Just a bunch of stuff that's over there. So going over to Elam B King. And if you got any questions, feel free to click on the contact us
Yeah,
button
coming
and
in.
participate in
Just like the
any
fajita.
discussions or whatever
I
there
write
as
what I
well.
live.
Thank you guys so much for
My life in the
joining.
speaker.
God bless.
I'm nice with the flow.
Peace. Appreciate you,
Just
James.
like the demeanor.
Peace, man.